afternoon, everyone. John Carter here with the re-inauguration of the Press Box Show from CTV Channel 6. Really excited about being back with CTV Channel 6, getting a chance to reinvigorate this show. Our purpose really is to do a weekly sports show. Talk about some of the topics for East China schools, bring in some of the coaches, some of the players, get a chance to meet some of those people, and really have a good time talking about the results and what they've accomplished so far. I do want to mention that we've got a crack crew, as always, helping us along this afternoon. Matt Olick is directing, Shelby Newman is on camera, and Paul Dingaman, let's call him the executive producer and assistant cameraman. Very pleased today to have our athletic directors from our two schools, St. Clair and Marine City, joining us as our first guests. And Chris Ming and Jeff Cook, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I think it's interesting. I want to just talk a little bit about how you guys got interested in being athletic directors. What was the drive to that? Chris, maybe tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into it.
Well, I was a teacher, classroom teacher and coach for 7 years. Always kind of aspired to kind of work within the coaching realm and the classroom. Down in Georgia where I was working, one thing kind of led to another, and had a situation where one of our administrators took ill, and me and a few others took on her responsibilities, and I kind of got a taste for the leadership aspect of things, supervision of sports, that type of thing, and whetted my appetite a little bit. So started taking some more classes, became interested, and when I started looking for an opportunity to move back to Michigan with my family, this job opened up, and I thought it would be a perfect meshing of my worlds, academic and athletic. Here I am.
So how did you get to Marine City? I mean,
well, actually, the former superintendent, Rod Green, was actually one of my professors during my educational leadership program through Oakland University. And when I saw the job open up, I remember him talking about East China, and with my last name sounding Chinese, I figured it was kind of meant to be. So I contacted him. He remembered me from class. In fact, in my second interview, he pulled up my grades from class just to make sure that I had what it took to step into this position. So I brought my family up here, and the first time I interviewed was the first time I saw the St. Clair River and fell in love with the area, and beautiful community, and here I am.
Great. Jeff, what about you? I'm sure grades were a big consideration as well with yours.
Yeah, for sure. So this is my 13th year at St. Clair High School as the APAD. I'm a St. Clair High School graduate. I've lived here pretty much my whole life, so this is home for me. And I was teaching and coaching at Richmond High School, baseball and football, and had enjoyed quite a bit of success out there. And the job opened up at St. Clair High School, and I really was ready to move into that spot, but I didn't necessarily think that I would get that job. And it was kind of neat to have the guy who was my high school assistant principal give me a call, Ron Miller, and say, hey, after a couple of interviews, I want you to be our assistant principal and athletic director. So it was a nice homecoming for me to come back to St. Clair and be home. A lot of familiarity with the community, which has its pros and its cons because everybody also knows me and where to find me. So that's both, that's usually a good thing. But really enjoy, obviously, St. Clair is my home, and a chance to give back to the same community that I really felt gave so much to me was really just a great opportunity. And I'm still here 13 years later.
It is nice to get back to the family, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So one of the things people may not know a lot of, what's involved in the day-to-day aspects of the job? Chris, what's your day like normally?
I can honestly say that no 2 days are ever the same.
Okay.
There are days when 95% of my day is dedicated to the assistant principal / in my job title. And there are other days when athletics absolutely take over. I'd like to be able to say that the first 3 hours of my day are dedicated to AP duties and then the rest to AD, but it never actually works out that way. My desk looks a lot like my mind during the day. It's a kind of a jumbled mess, just trying to keep everything organized and on track and making sure that everybody gets what they need, whether it be academic support, disciplinary support, or athletic support. Just making sure that everyone gets what they need to be successful.
Yeah.
I would kind of agree. I would say one of the things about both Chris and I that we share in our position is it's a lot of catching things as it comes to you. Things happen throughout the school day that aren't part of your daily plan or your agenda of things you need to check off your list. And so sometimes you'll get diverted from what you had planned on doing because you needed to focus or concentrate on something else. And things get pushed to the back burner sometimes for longer than you'd like, but you really have to press on. And I would say that our jobs are hectic would be a good word to use to probably describe what we do on a daily basis.
Okay, interesting.
In a lot of ways, I like to think about us as the firefighters in the school.
Right.
I mean, it's we put out the discipline fires. That if there's no discipline issues, then obviously there's no fire to put out.
Right.
That's when we can start to get into our long-term planning. But there are some days when we come in and we don't know necessarily what we're going to be doing that day until that day arrives. There's always things that need to get done, but there's always that little bit of doubt about what exactly is going to be waiting for me when I walk in that door.
Long-range plans very seldom remain intact throughout an entire day, right?
Yeah.
It's an evolving process.
The duality of the role when you're the assistant principal and the athletic director, having to complete the functions of both of those jobs, press time a lot. So organization and being able to make good, quick decisions that are to the benefit of everybody is something that both of us have to do on a daily basis.
Okay, it sounds like that's a real challenge of the job then. What do you like most about it?
Well, I think for me, what I like most about it is seeing kids explore new opportunities or make an achievement or meet a goal for the first time. I think watching kids grow both academically and athletically at a time where many of them are going to be at a peak performance level, it's really neat to see. And I think that the concept of team really comes to life at that high school playing level.
Yeah.
I like being around the kids. I mean, it's an easy answer, but we started work about a month before school started,
Right.
and to be honest with you, it kind of was boring. It's that first day of school. Like,
Without
there's
anybody around, it
faces.
kind of
Yeah, there's no one around. It's that energy you get from being around youth, and when they've worked their tail off to accomplish a goal and they finally reach that milestone, you share in that joy with them, and it's one of those things where you can't substitute for it. And whether it be a classroom achievement or whether it be an athletic achievement, that they've put their all into it, and the real gift for us is being around to witness that.
Yeah, great. It's a great segue, technical radio term of meaning a lead-in to the next topic. But one of the things that struck me just looking at the rosters of the various sports, and obviously football, but a lot of the other sports, swimming and crossfit, just a number of kids participating. Chris, how important do you think it is to be able to participate in athletics to a good high school experience?
It's not just athletics.
Okay.
I mean, being
Very good point.
involved in
Very good
any
point.
activity has been shown time and time again to create that connection that students need to feel wanted, and it leads to better academic success. We have a fantastic drama department in our building, and you get all different types of students who are involved with that, whether they want to be on the stage or they want to be in the crew or they want to help with lighting, whatever it might be. And really, we try to get them involved in any activity.
Right.
Now, we are fortunate. We have great coaching staff. We have a wide offering of sports. And we had we had 489 roster spots last year, and we had a population of 540. So we're upwards of 90% of our schools involved in activities, and that's a phenomenal rate. That's not seen everywhere across the Macomb Area Conference. It's not seen that way across the county. Being involved in something better and greater than yourself it's a big philosophy that we both believe in, and our kids get to experience that.
Yeah.
And I would echo exactly what Chris said. I mean, you look at, there's been literally hundreds of studies about involvement in school, kids doing something other than just going to school in the morning and coming home in the afternoon, and every one of them shows higher GPA, better school attendance, less disciplinary issues, more college scholarship, more college opportunities. And one of the things, speaking, kind of adding to what Chris said about it just not being sports, I'm always amazed at the number of kids that we have that are dual or three-sport athletes, and they're in the play, and they're in the band, and so they're really putting themselves out there and getting involved. And I think that involvement really helps kids to start to foster a direction of where they're going to go once they're out of high school. I think it helps them decide this is what I want to do.
What you like, right?
Yep.
What you're interested in. And even our crack CTV support crew here, I'm sure, has got the same thing. And it's amazing number of jobs now in things like radio and TV and the internet and everything else. I mean, virtually every company has this kind of capability and needs people who know how to do these things.
Yep.
So that's really important, I think. Hey, one of the things that everybody's talking about is a new stadium field. and how good it looks. I was there for the game, actually the Marine City St. Clair game a couple weeks ago. Paul took me down to the press box. But what kind of comments have you heard about it? I think it looks great.
Well, one of the things, you know, I've told people when they've asked me about it, I said, you know, it's like walking out on like a Tempur-Pedic mattress. That's how soft it feels. I know that one of the things the MHSAA is struggling with is the age of the officials that are out there and trying to procure more younger officials. And I know that our officials certainly appreciate that softer playing surface as they're running up and down. But for the kids, to have the opportunity to play on a premier surface like that, similar to any college or pro level football stadium, soccer field, you know, the sports that we use it for, it's a special gift that our community has provided for our kids by supporting the bond issues and the initiatives that have gone through to make something like that happen. And the old field, you know, we were one of the first in the area to have one, and then we were state of the art, and then the old field kind of became almost dull. And then this new field is breathed some new life into things. We've got colors in the end zones. We've got the hash marks. We've got the numbers. We've got the watermelon grass, different shades of grass effect. So just the aesthetic beauty of it is one thing, but then the safety that it provides because of the way it's built, with the additional padding that we put underneath it, also is a huge factor in just being able to provide a great, safe playing surface for our athletes.
Were you around when it was being built at all, Chris?
Oh, I was absolutely. I lived just down the road. And
Okay.
You know, Dr. Skelka has shown the time-lapse video of the whole thing going in, and though it's going very fast and you can't tell who it is, I know that that's me in several of those because I was out there. I live about a mile away, so I'd ride my bike up there and just see where the progress was and go out there and walk on it, feel that concussion pad layer that Jeff talked about. It went very fast. The whole process was very quick, very efficient, and it looks absolutely fantastic.
I know the field is used a tremendous amount, right? There's a lot of players.
There's a ton of usage.
Sports.
Particularly in the fall, outside of maybe one night a week, it is used constantly. We have soccer teams out there at both ends of the district. We have JV, freshman, varsity football teams. So it is in use. In fact, our bands have gone out and done some practices early in the season on there as well. So it is used a ton in the fall and then again in the spring for our spring sports. So to have a surface like that can always be counted on to be reliable and be safe and, you know, don't ever have to worry about the grass being too long or too short. All those things just make it just a great facility to have within our community.
I was talking to Kirk Grzelka, our Director of Operations for the district, and he had a conversation with the head of the company that we use for the turf. And that head of the company said that we have the premier playing surface in the state of Michigan right now.
That's really cool.
The safety hazards we have, tried to avoid with the installations, the drainage that we have in it, the unique quality of having two different schools represented on the same turf, kind of set it away from the others.
Yep.
So we're away from the competition on that. And the community came together. Volunteers from both ends saw, hey, we've got this fantastic field out here. We need to try and spice up the stadium a little bit, try and add a little bit to that. And so volunteers dedicated a weekend to going out there and painting the exterior fence as well, kind of bringing that back to life. We've had sponsors step forward and donate to the athletic programs and are now being recognized with some signage that Paul gratefully gets on his Channel 6 broadcast each time as well. People who have stepped forward, like Young Funeral Homes and Frank Realty and Viney's Varsity Wear, the Sweet Tooth, community businesses like that who have really helped out within our programs.
That's great. That's really terrific. Hey, I wanted to give you a chance just to talk a little bit about a couple of sports that are doing really well here this fall. Jeff, I know girls swimming has just had a terrific season so far.
Yep, our girls swim team is really doing outstanding. They're 5-0 undefeated. Last week they won the Warren Woods Tower Relays, which was the first time in school history that we've won that relay race event. Right now we have qualified swimmers in all 12 events for the state finals. The team's ranked.
Is that a first?
That is a first.
I thought it might be.
In fact, more kids have qualified for the state finals than we actually had on the team about 4 years ago. So
That's got to be a great tribute to the coach.
yes, kudos to Kenny Siggett, our head coach, and Marcus Krantz, who helps him, and a couple of our other former swimmers are there. There's a lot of eyes on the kids in the pool and really working on refining things and perfecting things. And I mean, I think Kenny's really excited. He thinks that we can make a really good showing at the state finals this year, and maybe with a little luck, we could even bring home a title, which would be something pretty amazing in a sport like that. We've really got a special group of girls right now, super dedicated to the sport, have had a lot of history and background, and have been swimming, since they were knee high. And so we're starting to see the fruits of all that labor, and we're really proud of that program and the direction they're going in right now.
And it's terrific. And I don't think all the sports, I mean, swimming might be as hard as any sport there is from a conditioning and just having to be at it standpoint.
I would argue that it's just as grueling as any crunches or things that basketball teams and football teams, and they're fighting another force all the time, the water.
Yep.
So it really is. It has both an individual and a team aspect sport to it, so it's really, really neat, and it's fun to watch the kids compete in that.
Excellent. Chris, what about you? What sports do you want to highlight?
It's hard to talk about Marine City Athletics and not bring up our football program. We started out the season with a tough loss to Elginak, and we have a very young team this year. We have, 5 sophomores who play significant minutes on the varsity team this year. And our numbers are a little bit lower. They're not the same numbers you're used to seeing at Marine City, but kudos to our coaching staff, Ron Glodich, and his assistants who have really pushed the kids to reach their potential. We're now sitting at 3-1. We're tied at the top of the MAC Gold. Interesting information, if you look at the standings right now, we actually will need to still play the leading team in the MAC Silver, the leading team tied with us in the MAC Gold, and the top team in the MAC Blue in Warren Cousino. So we have a tough schedule ahead of us, but our coaching staff keeps stressing the importance of learning every time, and our kids are developing that mental toughness that they need to be Marine City football players. Also want to really call out my volleyball program. They've worked very hard over the past couple of years, and they reached a high point last week in defeating Warren Cousino. Warren Cousino has been that elephant in the room that you can't get past for us the past few years. And though we went down 2 sets at Cousino the other night, including a heartbreaking second set where we lost 33-31, we came back and won it in 5 in a 3-hour match out there. So kind of feel bad for the AD out there. They had to sit around for 3 hours for that particular match, but
and lose.
And so the girls just really, they stuck with it, and they've developed this hard edge to them as well. Have a big match tonight against St. Clair. Kind of continue those winning ways, but we're hoping that they've rolled the corner and are looking at some really good things.
Excellent. And I understand there's a kind of a new program with girls golf that you guys wanted to talk about as well. What's going on there?
So a couple of years ago, Ken Moreski, who is a teacher in my building and is our boys golf coach at St. Clair High School, has been kicking around this idea of starting a girls program. And we had a couple of girls that were very involved with amateur junior play, members up at the club, and their parents were really pushing for. And one of the things whenever we start any type of new program is we want to see good participation. We don't want to start a program that's going to turn around in 2 years, we've got to shut it down because we're not playing. If it's something that we're going to start, it's something that we want to really try to build.
Sure.
So in doing that, Ken and I sat down a couple of years ago and looked at girls golf, and then Chris and I kind of extended that conversation, and we came to an agreement that we would have Ken coach 2 teams. It was better for our kids individually for them to compete as 2 separate teams, because if we were to be one combined, like an East China team, that moves us up into a Division I spot because of the combined populations of the 2 buildings.
I get you.
So by keeping it separate, our kids are really competing against peers that are more on the same school size. So last year we each had a couple of girls in the sport. This year we have a few more than we had last year. One of the girls that we had last year, Kara Likens, first time St. Clair is ever at a girls golf regional, and she is the winner of the regional. Ends up being the regional champion and advances into the state finals, which was really a neat thing to see happen in the first year of the program. And this year I know Chris has gotten a couple more girls, and we're hoping that, within a couple more years, we'll be in a point where we both have 2 full teams, and then we may look at having 2 separate coaches.
Right.
But right now, it works really well to have the combined coaching staff.
I echo what Jeff said. I mean, we're in this position to create opportunities for kids, and girls golf is a step that we took together. And I know that at Marine City, we've looked at other options as well to find out, what can we provide for our students that they're looking for, and maybe providing opportunities for students who maybe didn't have something before. So last year, we actually started up bowling in our school as well. We have boys and girls bowling programs. I know St. Clair this year is starting up a lacrosse program, all based on a need thing. Our students expressed a need for that, a want for that, and we're in this business to create opportunities for students. And what I love about bowling is that I've got some kids who lettered in bowling last year as juniors and seniors who didn't play any other sports while they were in high school. It's a little bit of a non-traditional sport in that way. Very much like every other sport in that you've got to practice at it, you improve constantly. There's very technical qualities to it.
Yep.
I believe we found a great coach who could really bring the most out of our players and our athletes, and did a great job last year. And I know lacrosse is something new that we have coming up this spring with St.
That's an
Clair.
interesting one to talk about. I mean, I'm from the East Coast originally, and lacrosse is huge in New York and all down the East Coast, Maryland, Virginia. Just starting, it seems, to pick up here in the Midwest. Great sport, kind of a combination.
It's actually the
of hockey,
fastest
soccer.
growing. Yep, it's the fastest growing sport in the country.
Okay.
Right now, youth sport in the country, and we have had a community based team for the last few years. Did a cooperative with Marysville, and they had this united team that was actually competing against some other MHSAA teams, but was not a school recognized sport, nor was it on our calendar. And kind of circling back around again, that chance to offer more opportunity to get kids involved, to make that connection at school, and then the fruits that come from that. And with the lacrosse program, we have this huge number of kids that have been participating for several years in a row. So I felt very confident in going forward and having a conversation with our superintendent about making this a school sport at St. Clair High School, because we've shown this past history of participation from a youth level up. Very, very similar to how we had the wrestling program get started a few years back too. So that it wasn't, again, going to be one of those things that took off and then floundered a couple of years later because there wasn't anybody to participate. So we just got approval recently, and we put an announcement out on our Facebook page that starting this spring, we will have a varsity lacrosse team at St. Clair High School. We've already got 14 games scheduled. They maxed us out at 18, so we already almost have a full schedule. I'm going to be in the process of looking to hire a coach, and then we'll be doing some organizational things. But there's a lot of buzz in the community about it. I know there's a lot of happy parents, particularly some of our parents who a couple of years ago were disappointed because we had to let hockey go because of participation numbers. And now we're finding a lot of kids that play hockey play lacrosse.
Right.
And so those kids, again, like Chris said, maybe kids that don't play any other sport, and all of a sudden now we're putting something else
And
in
another
front of
chance
them.
to use a stadium.
Absolutely. I don't know if the stadium will probably not be the place where they'll play.
Is it a fall sport?
It's a
or
spring sport, and the stadium is so busy in the spring, and we really haven't talked a lot about even the dimensions and the markings and those types of things that would have to happen to the stadium. We're actually looking at probably either potentially Solis Field, which is actually in really good shape, or it may even be there's a field over at St. Clair Middle School that this United team has practiced on for the last several years, which we could make into a regulation field. So we're probably looking at one of those two areas to put our games, and then from there, the first couple of years we'll probably have more games on the road than we'll have at home, but we'll build that up and even it out to a fairly even schedule, 9 home, 9 away, or something like that, and hopefully we'll really start to. I mean, the United team has had some success, so we're hoping that these guys can kick off right away and grow quickly.
Excellent, excellent. Chris, one of the other things I wanted to mention is I happen to be on your website. I just had to give you some kudos, some really nice job there on getting that website up and a lot of information.
Oh, thank you.
Did you do that yourself, or is that?
Do it myself. When I got here, this is my 4th year, so when I got here 3+ years ago, we didn't really have anything in place. And when I myself was looking during the interview, I couldn't find anything. And so that was one of my first tasks to take on as I was learning the job, is to make sure that I could have something in place to send people to for information. Over the years, it's evolved. I've added different pages in.
Right.
All my score reporting through my coaches is done through the website. With Remind, I'm able to integrate in announcements that way that go onto the website, but also go through text message to parents. It's something that I work at a little bit every day. Typically anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes every day. I'm updating and trying to keep things current on there. But I think it's a pretty useful tool. It's paid dividends so far.
It's really quite college-like, frankly,
thank you.
having been on a lot of college websites for athletics. So I just want to say that was really nice job. Well, guys, I really appreciate you coming in. I mean, this has been a fun half hour just talking about some of the ideas, some of the philosophies, and got to give a lot of credit, I think, to the school district as a whole, to very successful sports programs, multiple state championships in multiple sports. A lot of credit to you guys as well. Appreciate all your efforts.
Appreciate that.
Well, John, thanks for having us on. I got to say, as much work as we put into it, we wouldn't have a job if it were not for our coaching staffs and our students that are out there. Absolutely great representatives of our community, and I really appreciate all the effort and energy that the coaching staff and our students put in everything that they do.
Well, thanks, guys.
You betcha.
Well, that will wrap us up for this afternoon. Really hope everybody enjoyed our first show, and look forward to doing many more. Again, thanks to our crack crew, Matt Olick as directing, Shelby Newman on camera, and Paul, always thank you. Good night, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody.